For example, many real estate clients might say, "What I want in a house is lots of space." The broker asks, "What will having lots of space do for you?" One client says, "It will allow me to achieve a feeling of freedom to move around." Another client might answer, "The space will keep me from feeling cluttered." These two clients are examples of the two opposite types of motivation direction, toward and away from. People who are motivated toward use words like attain, gain, achieve, rewards. Those who go away from use words like avoid, ease, get away from, keep me from. Let's try some other examples, because this is the linguistic part of neuro-linguistic programming. You can actually hear these distinctions in a person's language. Some value words obviously show you the motivation direction. For example, fun is a value with a toward motivation direction, and challenge is also toward. Security is a value with an away from direction. What about when someone says, "I want success"? Is it toward or away from? Someone says, "Success is important to me." You say, "What does having success do for you?" And then you listen for the answer. It could be to live a more fulfilling life, toward, or to get out of a bad situation, away from. Similarly, money can be used as either a toward or away from value. As you learn information about the motivation direction of others, keep track of it. Mentally file this information or actually write it down someplace appropriate. Knowing this information will allow you to adjust your communication to be more persuasive. Earlier, you learned how to make something more compelling, more motivating to you by increasing the vividness of the submodalities in your mind's eye. Making what you're attracted towards or want to move away from more compelling by making them closer, bigger, more colorful, and three-dimensional. Professional persuaders add this powerful dimension into their proposals and presentations naturally. You can do it on purpose. For example, you might say to a prospect who is motivated away from, "There are certain difficulties you've told me that you want to avoid. For example, downtime, lost productivity, and cost overruns before they get too close, like they're breathing down your neck. Let me explain how what I offer can provide relief." With a prospect who is motivated toward, you might say, "I don't know how colorful and action-filled a future you want this company to move toward, how big your plans are, and how my contribution can make them even bigger and add dimensions to them now." When you add submodality richness and vividness to the values and images that your prospects, clients, or employees are already responding to, you add persuasiveness. Even if it's a one-to-one conversation, it becomes more compelling, more attractive, and more influential. Remember the visual submodalities that add attractiveness and responsiveness. More color, closer, bigger, richer, more vividness, movies, action, and three dimensions. Remember the auditory submodalities that add attractiveness and compel what you present. Sound coming from all around, a stereo quality to the sound, richness of tones, strong, compelling voices, and music. These elements make what you do more persuasive. Think drama. Think bigger than life. People like and respond to it. You're like a storyteller of old, bringing to life your ideas, vision, products, and services. After all, that's what all the color slides, computer-generated graphics, and fancy presentations are really all about. To capture the attention of the audience and have them experience that their highest values will be fulfilled with what is presented with movies, graphics, lasers, or music. And you can do that with them more personally, more exactly, more tailored to them than any computer even imagined now. Because as I talk to you, you've done all the things I've just talked about. When any of us hears something, even from another conversation, we can't help but make images and sounds of it in our minds. The professional persuader knows this intuitively. In NLP, we know it explicitly. We cannot not communicate. We are communicating all the time. The only question is how elegantly, or how intentionally. Combining these persuasion patterns together, the elicitation of values, of higher values, direction, and submodalities, into every qualifying interview, every new business contact, even every routine occasion, will, in a short time, make this process second nature and you first. How can you do this? First, check your rapport detection alarm. Are you in good rapport? Great. Now, talk to them in terms of their values and their motivation direction. What values will be fulfilled? What will they be able to avoid? What will they be able to move toward? You want to be sure to be looking at them when you deliver their value words and their motivation direction words with compelling submodalities. You want to be able to see their responses to know if you need to do more to make the delivery even more persuasive. Now, one more big hint to give you a complete edge. Remember that people cannot not communicate. We are constantly communicating information about how we think and how we want to be communicated with all the time. When someone is pointing his finger in the air, as if at an invisible screen, it's visible to him. When a prospect starts to think about your proposal, he'll break eye contact and look off somewhere else. If he looks up a little bit, it doesn't matter at this point which direction. He's studying your proposal with pictures in his mind's eye. If he gets tremendously obvious and says something like, "I can't see what you're talking about," draw him a picture. Put up a slide that answers his question and his values. Eye movements, language, and sensory thinking modes is probably the best-known part of NLP. For those unfamiliar with it, NLP's co-founders, Richard Bandler and John Grinder, along with their student at that time, Robert Dilts, discovered that the unconscious movements of a person's eyes reflected internal thinking strategies. They discovered that unconscious eye movements up indicate internal visualizing for most right-handed people. Unconscious eye movements down and to the left indicate internal conversation or dialogue, and unconscious eye movements down and to the right indicate attention to feelings or body sensations. A basic knowledge of eye movements and body movement can greatly increase presentation persuasiveness because people sometimes stay in a certain mode of thinking for a while. When you can see this, you can respond with just what they want. As you'll recall from the first tape, we have 5 sensory systems, primarily use 3 of them for thinking: the visual, the auditory, and the feeling, or what's called meta-kinesthetic. To review, you can tell when someone is processing information visually when they are unconsciously looking up. That is, not looking at anything on the outside, but to something obviously internal. Additional cues include when they are pointing at a place in space, sort of like a screen, when they talk at a rapid rate, sometimes with thoughts disjoined. Another clue is when they use words referring to seeing pictures, images, or movies. When these behaviors are continued for several seconds, the person is processing a lot of their experience visually, if you see what I mean. Distinct from visual people are those who keep looking down and to their left, who list points, possibly on their fingers, who mumble to themselves when they talk out loud in a monotone, often touching or stroking their face. When they use words referring to what people said, what they heard, what they read, when they continue to do this for several seconds, they are processing a lot of their experience with sounds and words, that is, auditorily. Can you tune into this category? The third category is when others keep looking down to their right, sighing, touching their heart area, or smoothing their hands on an arm or a thigh. When they talk slowly, using words referring to how they feel, or grasp, or touch the world in concrete ways. When they do this for several seconds, they are processing a lot of their experience with feelings, if you can grasp my meaning. All people can and often do use these sensory modalities for thinking. Usually we're moving quickly from one to another.